Okay, continuing on with summertime and improvising over the chord changes using the make the changes method. The first thing I'm going to do is record the chords for the next section so that you'll have something to practice along with. Last week we did the first section, which was basically just the E minor to the B7. When the song actually starts, that happens 4 times for a total of 4 measures. Then we get to the second part, which is the A minor to the C to the B7. Now that's actually another 4 measures. We have a measure of A minor, a measure of C, and a measure of B, 2 measures of B7. The B7 can be played with the B in the bass or the F sharp, doesn't matter. So I'm going to record a few measures of that chord progression and then discuss how we're going to play over it. 1, 2, 3, and then this is what you can come back to practice what we're going to discuss. You can bring it back to about a minute 40, minute 50, or 2-minute mark by the time I actually get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. Practice playing the chords along with me if you want. A minor, C, B7, change the bass note, more times. Okay, so like I said, that's the second part of the song, and what we're going to do is take the same approach that we did for the first part. What we're trying to accomplish here is just knowing when the chords are going to change and then playing a melody, an improvised melody that works with those chord changes. And in this case, we're just going to actually use the chord tones from each of those chords, because the important thing right now isn't really what you're playing as much as being able to know when to play it. Okay, so the first chord in that chord progression is A minor. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bar up here on the 5th fret with the first finger, okay? We're just going to bar those 3 strings, and And when we do that, that makes a little A minor chord. Okay? Now, when you actually play the notes, you could play them separate. Okay, but what I want you to know is that those three notes, the C note, the E note, and the A note, those are the three notes in an A minor chord. And it might actually be better to play them as separate notes, whatever finger you want to use. Maybe use the ring finger, might be best in this particular situation. And then the second chord is a C. Now, the C and the A minor are very closely related, so you're going to find out that there is not a lot of change in the notes from the A minor chord to the C chord. So as we said, these three notes make up the A minor chord. If we change one of those notes, the first note is the same, the second note is the same, the third note's going to go down to the third fret of the high E string. So those would be the three notes in the C chord. And if you wanted to play them all at once, you could use your ring finger, your pinky, and your first finger, or just strum them, in which case that makes a C chord. And it's good to be able to recognize the chords in these smaller forms and not always have to rely on the full 6-string versions. This is a C chord, but this is also a C chord. Or we can play, as I said, just play them as separate notes. And then the final chord in that progression is the B. Now the B we already looked at last week when we were playing the E minor to the B7. We were using the B chord. So if these three notes comprise a C chord, all we have to do is slide all of that down one fret, and that makes a B chord. So if we wanted to play those as separate notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So we have the notes for the A minor chord here all on the 5th fret. So I'm going to play that same rhythm. I'm going to play a half note followed by 2 quarter notes for all 3 chords. So it would be something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll do that one again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the chord forms that we're going to use to improvise over that section of the song. Now, once again, the important thing to realize is that there's a measure of each chord. So you can try to play all 3 of those notes, but once again, remember, that's not important. What's important is knowing where you are in the song. So you can pick any one of those 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. There I only played 2. I didn't even play the highest one. And because the A minor and the C chord have these 2 notes in common. If you recall, the notes in the A minor are the C, the E, and the A, followed by the C, the E, and the G for the C chord. If we wanted to, we could just play these 2 notes for both chords, right? Because they have those notes in common. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would be a successful improvisation over those 2 chords. So when those first 2 chords are going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we know that when we go from the C chord to the next chord, which is B, everything just goes down a fret, and I hope that makes sense. If this is C, right before C comes B. So if these two notes are in the C chord, then these two notes are in the B chord. Okay? And if these three notes are in the C chord, then those three notes are in the B chord. Okay, so I'm going to play a couple of examples. I'm going to go from the A minor for a measure, to the C for a measure, to the B for a measure. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you'll notice that I chose to only play one note on that A minor chord. I had a choice of three. I only played one. That's okay because we're improvising here. We're not playing any written melody. We can pick any of the three notes, and as long as we don't play longer than a measure, it doesn't really matter. There's no right or wrong. Well, there is a right, but you don't have to play all three notes. You can play just one of them, you can play two of them, or you can play all three. This time I'm going to play that on all four beats. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that time I played four notes, four quarter notes for each measure. And either of those ideas would have worked for the chord changes. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and play another example. So this time I'm going to use two notes from the chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when I count off and I'm showing you these examples, if you want, play the chords. After I count off, play the chords along with the notes that I'm playing. Okay, you know it's a measure of A minor, a measure of C, and a measure of B. Okay, let's try that one time. I'm going to count off and I'm just going to play a simple improvised melody. You play the chords along with me and listen to what I'm playing and see how it blends with the chords that you're playing. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? I hope that's understandable. So what you want to do is now familiarize yourself with those three small chords that we're going to use. The A minor. Understand and appreciate what you're playing, that you're playing the notes in an A minor chord. You could strum them. You can play them separately. Then we're going to the C chord. Be able to find that C chord. Just play the notes separately in any order. B chord. And very simply put, understand what you're doing. When the A minor chord is being strummed, you're playing notes from the A minor chord. When the C chord is being strummed, you're playing notes from the C chord. When the B chord is being strummed, you're playing notes from the B chord. You're playing whatever notes you want from those three chords. You're playing however many notes you want, and you're making those notes last as long as you want them to last. You can play one note that lasts 4 beats. You can play 2 notes that last 2 beats each. You can play one note that lasts 1 beat and then a note that lasts 3 beats. You can play 8 notes if you want. You can play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, if you want to play a little faster, something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and etc., etc. It's really up to you. The main thing is that you know what the chords are and when they're going to change. In order to effectively improvise over a song, you have to know the chord changes and you have to have a sense of when they're going to change. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the chords just for the first 2 parts several times. This way, if you decide to get adventurous, don't try to play along with this yet. Go back to the 2-minute mark or wherever it was and practice just playing these 3 chords, the 3 new chords, the A minor, the C, and the B, over the rhythm that we laid down earlier. But what I'm going to do now to end this is I'm going to play the 4 measures of the first part, followed by the 4 measures of the second part, should you want to try and put it all together. Okay? As I'm doing this, try to think to yourself where the chords are going to change. Try to know where the chords are going to change with some confidence. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure. Third measure. Fourth measure. Now you know it's going to change here to the A minor, to the C, and then to the B for 2 measures. You just have to know that that's going to happen. I'm going to do it again. Fourth time, which means it's going to change, right? A minor to C to B7. One more time. Changing. Okay, that's if you get adventurous and you're feeling good about your understanding of this, you can try playing along with that much of the song. Okie dokie. So give me some feedback at some point. Let me know if you're actually able to play along and improvise by making the changes with the chords. And if you feel confident in knowing where it's going to change from section 1 to section 2. Because that's really what we're talking about here. We're not really concerned too much about playing fancy stuff, because all the fancy stuff in the world is useless if you don't know where to put it. So the important thing now is to be able to understand where to put it, and then with the passage of time, the improvisations can become a little bit more complicated and interesting. Okie dokie. Have a good one.